Welcome to the Kurt and Kenny podcast. Coming at you from work in progress, co-working in downtown Las Vegas. We're here to talk about growing your business, making more money, and thriving in a startup life. Here they are, Kurt and Kenny.
Hey, I'm Kurt.
And I'm Kenny.
And welcome to episode 2 of the Kurt and Kenny podcast. Today's topic is how sharp is the cutting edge? And in this episode, we're talking about technology adoption, answering the question when it is a good thing to stay on the cutting edge with business tech, and when is early adoption an unnecessary gamble. So let's dive in. Let's ask some questions here about how you define being an early adopter.
I'm a bleeding edge kind of guy. I'm the nerd that sits in line outside the stupid Apple store waiting for the newest phone to come out, or the guy who hears about a cool new toy like drones and goes out and buys a $2,000 one just so that I can test the waters and see how it works. So for me, the definition is somebody who gets in earlier than most on whatever the product or service or thing may be. For the most part, I would consider myself definitely an early adopter.
So it's interesting, in my cohort, being that I'm a little older than you, I seem like right? Yeah. I seem like the earliest of all adopters. Yet around you, I could be tagged as a late adopter or even a middle adopter. And I think it's interesting to answer the question, how sharp is the cutting edge? Because in my experience over the years, it's been very sharp for both good and bad. Mm-hmm. An example of when it's been sharp for good is when I've tried to implement and adopt technology to try to improve efficiencies in my organizations that I've either owned or ran or worked with as a consultant. In other times, it's actually cut to the bone because the investment in the technology was way ahead of where the operational efficiencies were. And so I wasted a lot of money hoping that somehow, someday, the human element of my organization would catch up to the technological availability that's in the market. And for me, I've tended to notice over the years that technology is way too far ahead of most businesses. But when it's not adopted, and when you don't have a mindset for adoption, it creates a lot of lost opportunity, which can actually severely cut your net income.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I get that. My over the years, I mean, even Neon Brand itself has been a fact of its whole creation was an early adoption of marketing on social networks. I mean, we were doing it back in 2011, and even truly the company started in 2008 under a different name, targeting social media marketing. So, I mean, from the beginning of Neon Brand's existence, our whole thing has been early adoption, and I think the value there, I early adopt a lot of stuff, and some of it just doesn't work. Like, the drone thing was so cool, and it worked until there were a bunch of laws that got slammed on top of it, and now it's really hard to fly your drone anywhere without getting in a lot of trouble. So, was that good or bad? I don't think I necessarily made actual dollars off of my drone after spending all the time and money on getting it and being able to fly it the way I can.
Well, I can promise you,
yeah,
looking at the income statement, you have not made any money on your drone.
But
that's a really sharp sword.
The point is there, though, is because I had that drone and because I was able to use it for marketing on our own business, I think it provided a value to people more than just the drone. It said to people, look, we're willing to get it done whatever it takes, kind of thing. It's hard to...
Okay, so...
This goes back to the previous podcast on intangible ROIs.
Yeah, well, we're not going back there. We came out of that abyss. We're not going back. So here's the point where I think you as you evaluate whether or not that was a good decision and whether it was a good idea to adopt early on that versus late, I think from a dollars and cents standpoint, that was a loss. I mean, it still hasn't paid off, but the question is, and the question I would ask for you to evaluate for the listeners is, did it not pay off? Was it too early of an adoption as we look back on it financially because of the externalities that made it hard for us to make money doing it? Or was it because we adopted the technology, but we didn't bring our customers along with it? And this might be a scenario where the adoption was a good idea, but the execution maybe didn't match it. So now it looks like like it cut us to the bone.
So I do a lot of random things for our marketing all the time. As you know, I like to do weird things. And like even the stuff of taking our employees out to go to the archery range, that's totally a marketing tactic that doesn't have a direct ROI. Just because we're better archersmen. How do you say that? Bowsmen? Well, you got the word there.
Archers?
Come on, help me. There we go. Archers.
Bozeman.
Bozeman.
It's a new thing.
Bozeman.
That's a place in Montana, actually.
Dang it.
Archers.
Anyways, archers. It doesn't provide us any real true ROI at all. So this was but the point of that was, and the point of all of it is to show people that we're willing to do cool new things and to be the person that is doing the new thing before anybody else is. Because it just, that's how you get more shares. That's how you get people more interested. When your Facebook feed is filled with drone videos, it's not so exciting to share a drone video anymore. But when you're the only one of 2 or 3 guys doing it, there's a lot more value, and people are thinking, holy crap, that company, these guys are doing things. Like, they are out there, they're trying new stuff. So there's a value component there to being on the bleeding edge that plays out in just overall confidence and trust and I don't know, desire to do business with somebody like that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be the guy that's doing the cool new thing. I don't want to be the guy that's doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. I want to be the guy that's out there breaking the mold, doing something different, changing what I'm seeing in different ways. Anyways.
It's exactly the kind of thing that traditional business guys like me cringe when they hear
go to sleep or go to bed crying at night.
Tech, freelancer, early adopter, crushing the market collisions guys say. Because, yeah, it's fun. That is a lot of fun. It's fun to have all the gadgets. It's fun to have all the toys. It's cool to be able to tell people, hey, we adopt early. We have all the new tech. We love the new tech. We think tech has a place in your business. But there are consequences. And as you're talking there, it actually takes me back to a time way in the past in business school. Shout out to Kim Kraft, PhD, who told us at the very beginning.
Was that in the
60s? Just a little past. Yeah. But it takes me back to a statement that he made when we were starting our econometrics courses and our decision modeling courses. And he always used to tell us, good decisions do not always guarantee good outcomes, and bad decisions do not always guarantee bad outcomes.
Yep.
Sometimes you can make a bad decision, and because of externalities or other things that just happen in your favor, you get a good outcome, and it has due to no fault of your own, and vice versa, right? And so I think the answer to the question lies not necessarily in whether or not, how sharp is the cutting edge, right? Whether it's a good idea to stay on top of technology and to early adopt or not. I really think it's about making decisions and then executing on those decisions. And you'll probably hear me say this a billion times over the time that we podcast and we share our ideas. But a lot of times it's about execution. If you early adopt something, sometimes you're just too far ahead. But there's other times when if you don't get the success you were hoping for, it's just because you didn't execute. And let's take social media as an example, right? About the same time that I was laughing at all of the people who said social media was going to change the marketing world, you were saying social media marketing is going to change the world. I signed up for my Facebook account, and I did it because I was working for a corporation at the time that required us to do it, because it was going to revolutionize the way that LASIK practices marketed to their constituents and their potential customers. Well, I did it begrudgingly, and I didn't even look at it for years. And at that same time, even though we didn't know each other at the time.
Yeah.
At that same time, you were already starting with it. You had an employee who was dedicated to it. And I think that early adoption is a reason why Neon Brand has been successful with social media marketing, because we're not trying to learn it right now. Mm-hmm. We're trying to figure out what is the next innovation that's going to improve efficiencies in marketing spend. It's trying to figure out how do we narrowly focus and target specific clients that our clients may want, and it's transitioning into real dollars. So there's an example of when, like being on the very cutting edge of that, it's taken some time, there's some latency to the outcome, but we see it every day where money is being generated in businesses because you got out front.
Sure. One thought that came to mind while you were saying all that was, the true way to the way to make the cutting edge not bleed so much is it's more of a way of life than just a type of. It's more than just buying a new product. It's like a culture statement. It's being aware of everything that's happening all around you, trying it quickly. Like even the new Vero social network, we pulled that up to see what's going on and see if there's a way that we can monetize that, even though their main plug is they're never going to have advertising. Well, but if people are there, there's a way to make money. So, it's figuring out those things quickly and then pivoting quickly is if something doesn't work. Like we did the drone thing for a little while. Well, that worked for maybe 2 years or a year even, maybe not even that, as far as being able to use it and expose exciting videos and things for people. But now it's saturated. So we've kind of moved away from that. Even the social network thing, luckily we were in early enough before everybody else was doing it. So we were ahead of the curve, and now a lot of people are offering that service, and hopefully the expertise that we've gained over the many years of using the social networks plays out to our advantage in a competitive landscape. But my whole thought is it's not just something you can just say, like if you're a law firm, there's not going to be a lot of new innovation all the time, but it's being aware of whatever is innovated, trying it and seeing how it can improve your customer experience, like maybe a new way to get reviews from your clients. Okay, let's see if that's something we can use to our advantage, or a new software to help manage your caseloads better, and new apps on your phone that might help. Being aware of all these things and constantly looking for them, to where if one can help reduce your overheads in different ways. Automation is a great thing that makes things better and cheaper in the long run, even though it might have upfront costs. If you can identify and execute those things quickly or toss them aside quickly if they don't work, then you can find success more often. But it's definitely more a lifestyle. You got to be looking all the time in all the places, trying to find the next thing that's going to hit, or else. That would be
sometimes adopting Alexa in your office when you're doing a podcast is an unnecessary
Alexa,
gamble.
We weren't talking to you. I was like, what is that noise? No, Alexa, not talking to you.
Good night, Alexa.
Yeah.
Well, here's a perfect example of why you should not early adopt the Amazon Echo Dot in your office doing a podcast. So to your point, here's an example. So I'm thinking back to like the early 2000s, 2005, 2006. There was a space race, so to speak, among LASIK providers. Everybody was spending $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 to upgrade a laser. Outcomes were getting maybe 10, maybe 20% better, sometimes less. But yet everybody felt compelled, like they had to have that technology or else they weren't legitimate. And what we found out is we were chasing this dream that in reality didn't necessarily play out. We ended up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on upgrades and support and other items that I don't know if they ever paid off. I don't know if they ever came back to us. So I think I think in the category of when it's an unnecessary gamble is if you can't substantiate that it significantly improves your service or product offering. I mean, I think you have to really evaluate that, because technology is fun. Everybody loves it. And we're in probably version 2.0 of a tech spree like we did back in the 90s before the dot-com bubble hit us. But I think this time it's a little different, to where businesses are innovating and adopting that technology. But it becomes an unnecessary gamble if it doesn't fit within the parameters of your business model.
Sure.
If you're getting it just to get it,
right,
then you're just wasting money. And technology isn't cheap.
Right.
Good tech costs a lot of money.
Yeah. Totally. There's huge repercussions for not being at least a semi cutting edge type of person. What am I trying to say? Like, I worked for a law firm that had when I started there in 2004, there was a lot of old ways being done, specifically with the file handling. It was still a paper system, which in 2004 wasn't unheard of. 2005, most everybody was still doing that. But one of the first things we did once I got on board was we digitized everything in the office and made everything go onto the computer. So my point is, if you're not constantly just looking and making sure, then there could be and that was a huge amount of work, by the way. There's a price that you will eventually pay for playing catch up. So it's a matter of paying attention, staying on point, so that when your clients look at you, they don't think you're outdated and old fashioned, and that way you don't end up incurring a huge expense later on to say, oh, now I got to adopt 10 new technologies that everybody else has been using for 10 years. And the potential lost revenues you have from not having adopted them sooner, because clients then end up choosing alternatives because you're behind the times. So at least at a minimum, make sure you're staying up to date on what's happening in technology, especially with it moving so quickly. There's so much happening all around you in every single industry, I can guarantee it. You got to know what that is. You got to adopt it if it's something that's going to win. If it's not something that's going to win, then sure, set it aside, but keep it on the back burner just in case it does start winning, and then adopt as soon as it makes sense, because the worst thing is going to be, the time frame there in the law firm example was they were 30 years behind the curve. Luckily, technology was slow going for those 30 years. But now things change in 2 years and 3 years increment and 1 year and 6 months, so you got to be paying closer attention because of how fast things are changing and getting better for the most part. You have to be able to adopt that stuff and implement it into your strategies and into your workflows as quickly as possible.
But even so, a caution, maybe a final caution on that note, is you do have to give things time to mature. And in a very
for some
innovative
people,
time.
Yes. For some people, yes. I think there's value for letting it mature. That makes it a much wiser investment versus somebody that's willing to, take their gut and say, yep, I think this is going to be a thing, and splurge on it early. You actually save money because usually it's at a lower cost when you're in an early adoption phase.
But
it plays out.
But what I'm talking about is if you early adopt and then you early adopt and then you early adopt and you add all these overlays on the thing you early adopted on that was going to solve your problem.
Was that early adoption squared or cubed?
That's cubed. That's early adoption cubed. But you have to be really careful that you let things mature, because it's easy to bounce from app to app to app to app to
mature
app.
inside your own business. Make sure it's working.
No, I'm not talking about mature
before you adopt
technology.
Yeah, okay.
I'm talking about you have to let it mature in your organization, or else
Right.
you're constantly adding new things. We started a new sales funnel program, and we had 3 different CRM programs that we were using before we even got started, and we don't even use any of them now. We use a 4th one.
Yeah. Don't get the shiny object syndrome for sure.
Yeah, so I think you have to give it time to mature, and you have to make sure that you make a good buying decision. Even if you're early.
Yes, I wouldn't. The recommendation is not find a tool and keep buying a sharper tool. Find a tool that works and keep the tool sharpened until it's time to get a better tool. So don't go bouncing from tool to tool to tool to tool to tool. But you can be paying attention to different tools. So like you have the knife that's really sharp, but now you need the screwdriver to help assist it, and you buy the best screwdriver that's available. Sorry, Kurt likes to speak in parables, so sometimes I speak in parables to help him understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Was that a good one? How did
Well,
I do?
yeah, that's pretty good. That was pretty good. I'm marginally impressed. You're coming along.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, that's actually probably a really great note to end on, and to think about if new tech augments existing tech, it's a yes. If it doesn't augment it, then stay away from it, or else you're just spending money and wasting time in retraining.
Or do a lot more homework before you adopt it to make sure that it's not going to be something you're going to waste.
But above all else,
cause a double waste.
But above all else, know that you're going to use multiple applications from now until forever in your business, because there's going to continue to be great solutions, some of which will be ready early, some of which will be ready in the more mature phase. But number one, you need to have a mind to adoption. Now, when you adopt, whether it's early, middle, late, that depends on the maturity of your business model. But if you're not looking for technological solutions to innovate your business, then you're losing a lot of money and you're losing a lot of opportunity.
And go sign up for Vero, because I think it's going to be a good social network. So says my early adopter.
That was not a paid endorsement.
That wasn't. I wish it was. Vero.co/Kenny. No, that's not a thing. And then friend me. All right. That's it. See ya.
Bye.